So this is kind of like a little chat that we might have any old day, Alan. So if there are any bits that we do that look really stupid, or if my dog barks or starts to snore, Harry will edit it all out. Okay?
Okay.
So, top yacht sales insights from Berthon for November. So this time it's me, Sue Grant, and Alan Baines from Berthon USA, and we're going to chat about what's happening in the market at the moment and what we concluded after our international meeting last week. So the first thing is the refit and service business in Palma is very busy, but they're doing lots of small refits, and it's all about stopping a sinking and essential maintenance rather than cosmetics. Is that also what's happening in the States, Alan?
We've seen, a big shift in the marketplace in the last few years with the rise of Wall Street money taking over a lot of boatyards and marinas.
Oh, the lovely Safe Harbour.
Safe Harbour is one, but there's several others as well. Everyone in that sector of the market seems to be go big, buy as many as they can. And basically, we're witnessing the death of the sort of mom and pop standalone boatyard. And the benefits to that are there's quite a lot of capital flowing into these places, and a lot of them needed that. The downside is they don't appear to be, in some cases, really that good at actually running a boatyard. So
that's a drawback.
We've seen some instances this fall of where key employees have left some of these groups. Those key employees have been with those boatyards for quite a while. And consequently, they don't have anyone to get the boats out of the water or winterize them. So they're running really behind on some of that. And I suspect that's probably overflowing into the routine service industry as well. Mm-hmm. We have experienced huge price rises in getting any service work done. The average labor rate now is probably $150 an hour. And then you get to the skilled trades, the electronics and things like that, you're up closer to $200 an hour.
Wow.
So if it's $200 an hour, you are, what's that, sort of $1,600 a day. And we all know sometimes you don't get an awful lot for a day's work in this industry.
So it really is, in that case, it's going to be basic maintenance, so nobody's doing the pretty stuff, if they can do it.
Yeah. So you're seeing a shift from the people who just have just a simple boat and stuff, getting priced out of the whole sport in a lot of ways.
I think yachting is becoming more expensive, isn't it? Yachting is becoming more expensive.
It's becoming very expensive, and we have also witnessed this year more than any other year, I think, that I can remember, a massive uptick in scrapping of sailboats.
Seriously?
In that they used to be, there always used to be some buyer, even at $5,000 or $10,000, but those guys just don't exist now for the number of boats that are in that price category. Towards the end of summer, went around all the boatyards in Narragansett Bay, which is like a 30-mile radius of where we are, and counted the number of sailboats on land. And these are the ones with sort of white bottom paint, the ones that clearly had not been in the water in several years. And I came up with 600, just in the 30-mile radius of here. So now if you amplify that over the entire country, we are talking hundreds of thousands of boats.
So is there a business, because we don't really have this in Europe, is there a business that is scrapping boats?
There is nowadays, I think there is a rise in the business of scrapping boats, in that a lot of those older boats had lead keels, so that has value. The railings, the metal in the mast has value. The downside is literally the only way to get rid of a fiberglass hull still is to take it to the dump. and just cut it up to into bits and just steamroller it into a dump, and that is sort of unsustainable as a way to get rid of end of life boats. I think we really need to find a sustainable way to.
We need to be able to recycle them in some way, turn them into something else. I mean, in terms of a material that can be used again.
Yes, exactly. And there's people have looked into putting them into sort of concrete and things like that, but it hasn't been industrialized yet, and it really needs to be. But I think that's the only long-term solution in the sailboat market in this country is to right-size it to where the actual industry is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so nothing to do with our insights, but that is very, very interesting because it's going to come down the track everywhere in the world. And it's just a question of time. And the fact is that a boat's never been an appreciating asset, but it's been an asset of sorts. Now it's becoming like a car, which you scrap.
Yeah.
So, and you pay somebody for the privilege. So, in the USA, the market's moving well, mainly because yacht sellers are being much more realistic on pricing and are willing to accept market value when it's offered. Can we just unpack that?
Yes, with the cost of running boats going up and things like that, then there is definitely reticence for people to take the plunge, which is different from 2-3 years ago, when literally people would buy whatever was on the market. In 2021, 2022, to a certain degree 2023, that was the turning point. Now it's definitely gone down. You have people with inventory, new boats inventory rising quite significantly. There's an awful lot of 2023 products still out there, both power and sail. And so the manufacturers have had to right size, and that always takes a while. In other words, the elastics snap back. So sellers have got to be more realistic in asking price, what they expect out of it, and the scary thing, if you like, in terms of new boat sales is because the price of new boat sales has continued to skyrocket. There is now a big differential between a late model used boat and the equivalent new boat.
Oh, it's huge.
We used to use the benchmark of a boat after 5 years would be sort of worth 50% of what the current replacement of that new boat would be. And we're not seeing that right now. We're probably seeing, in sailboats, we're seeing 35 to 40% of the replacement.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And
bear in mind, the person who owns a 5-year-old boat now is still getting above 50% back on what the original investment is, but it's less than 50% when you compare what that same boat would be new right now.
Yes, and of course what they also have to bear in mind is that she's 5 years old, so all of the kit is 5 years old, the wear and tear is 5 years old, so the buyer of that boat has investment as well. I mean, it was ever so, but that's certainly the case, and the buyer isn't saving money because of the delta with the new boat.
Right. So we have seen really two of the last sort of surviving U.S. boat manufacturers pause production in recent weeks. Catalina being the most well-known one of it, and they're also owned by the same guy who owns Tartan, which wasn't really doing very much, but I assume it's gone the same way. So that leaves literally Island Packet as the only surviving monohull sailboat manufacturer.
That's extraordinary. Isn't that extraordinary? Yeah. I mean,
and they're, I don't know what they're producing, but I can't believe it's more than 10 boats a year.
Yeah, I mean that is totally extraordinary. And of course, we're seeing in Europe that new boat sales are difficult because for a new boat, clients are actually, they can afford the new boat, but it's a perception of value.
Right.
You kind of get past the tipping point when they say, well, a new 40-footer isn't worth $1 million to me.
That's right. And then the other thing that we've had in this year is the implementation of tariffs that wasn't ever there before. And that's added 15% to a European-built boat, 10% to a UK-built boat, and a lot more than that for an Asian-built boat. There are workarounds on that, in that if you register it offshore, don't bring it to the US, which of course you can in a boat, specifically a sailboat anyway. Then you can defer that at least, but you are then limiting yourself to sailing outside of mainland US, and furthermore, then you cannot get financing on such a boat. They will only finance a boat if it's within the US.
But that's also quite bad for the US from the point of view that, we've seen, haven't we, your clients buying and using in Europe. We've always had some Americans who've used in the Mediterranean or gone up to the Baltic and all that kind of stuff. But of course, the problem with that is, first of all, their boat isn't in the US using all the US services and all that kind of stuff. And also, there's nothing to suppose that people aren't going to have a nice time and decide to carry on yachting not in the US. And once they do that, they've got the 20% VAT holiday in Europe, and there are lots of nice places in the world.
And it's, we have indeed sold 3 boats since the tariffs, sold or delivered, and every single one is simply not being used in the States, or not intending to be used in the States. So, I guess it will always happen, but it's not like they happen on small boats. And that, not that small boats are necessarily a big part of our business, but
no, but they're still important for the kind of for the whole American yachting industry. Small boats lead to larger boats. Small boats bring people into the industry, and they become passionate about yachting or motorboating, and they want to do more. It's kind of part of the ecosystem, isn't it?
And the US powerboat manufacturing situation is dead opposite to what the sailboat manufacturing situation is. US is very, very strong in powerboats, center console boats. Small trailerable powerboats is the backbone of probably the industry in this country, marine industry. Mm-hmm. And then it goes up into sort of the cruisers and things like that. But super yachts is not what this country does, and that's all Europe.
And yet, there's a thieving frenzy of the super and mega yachts because of the tax breaks. And these boats are going under offer to Americans and all the rest of it, because they have to be done and commercial and chartering before the end of the year.
In fact, I was talking to your friend of mine, Tony Allen, the other day, and his section of the market, which is the very top, is booming, specifically with Americans buying big mega yachts and super.
Yeah, and I've got a client who's a mega yacht surveyor, and he's on a plane. He just phenomenal amount of stuff going on. So it's a funny old world. So the next thing we said is there remain too many overpriced yachts on the market where brokers have overpromised to get listings. I do think that's the case. And I do think you have to keep up with the market as well. What worked a year ago doesn't work today.
Yeah, I think being honest with your customer is super important, rather than just telling them what they want to hear, and then trying to accurately price that. I know I spent quite a lot of time going through sales statistics and whatever is available to give a comparison with what the listing prices are, how many are available, how many have sold in the recent time frame, a year or a couple of years or whatever, and how many days that would typically lead to being on the market. There is, there is a correlation. If it's accurately priced, it's definitely got more chance of going than something that's perceived to be overpriced, because the customers, know what these things are really worth. You can't just say, well, that's what the price they sell for. If they see that the boat's been on the market for 2 years, it's clearly not the price it's going to sell for.
No. I mean, that's right. But, in the first sort of listing process, quite recently, I priced a boat and we didn't get her. Another broker got her. And the owner very kindly sent me an email kind of a little while later saying, my boat's under offer, by the way, your pricing was correct. And sometimes I think, gosh, how stupid am I? But I think you have to tell it the way it is.
You do, otherwise, with the cost of advertising these days and stuff, it's just not in anyone's interest to have something sit there for over a year to sell.
No, doesn't help anyone.
If it can't sell within one cycle, then there's something wrong, and that clearly the only thing wrong is the price.
Yeah, and I think also that we tend to forget or it is easy to forget that if we are spending a lot of money on marketing, the owner is spending a year's carrying costs, and actually a sale within 3 to 6 months is hugely much better at 5% less than a sale in 12 to 15 months, because actually that's a worse price, even if you got the price you first thought of, which you're not going to.
Yeah, exactly. It's just dollars and cents at the end of the day. Really.
That's right. Okay, so the next one, the market is diverse and no broker can be an expert on all parts of the market. Picking a broker who knows the market segment intimately may not get an owner the asking price they hope for, but the chances of a sale within a reasonable time span are much enhanced. I think that goes back to what we've already said, which is you have to work with a broker who knows that market.
Yeah, and it helps if you know that particular product. I mean, we have our new boat brands, and that's translated to pretty much owning the brokerage market for those brands, because we know the boats, and we know what they need and what they're likely to need, and everything else. So we've just, for example, just sold 2 Moody 54s in the last 2 weeks. One's closed and one's in closing, and that's literally the only 2 Moody 54s that have sold in the US brokerage-wise for years.
No, you're right. It's knowing, and I think also we have the advantage with our little group that if you have something in your territory that you're looking at, or that that you've been asked to list, we have a huge amount of experience and knowledge that will actually help us to assess the market, put the boat with the right broker, and also be correct on the initial pricing. Because if it's something that you don't know so well, somebody in Europe's going to know the boat. Somebody,
and then actually going back to the Moody 54s, we've actually sold 3 of them this year, one in Rome and 2 over here, which if you look at all the Moody 54s sold worldwide in the last year, it may have been, we've sold 3 out of the 4, I believe, that I know of.
Right.
Or maybe there was 5 or something like that. But we've got most of the market there. And the other issue is all these boats, power and sail, they're all getting complicated. So you can't just sort of sell it and say, oh, here's your boat anymore. They need education on how the thing works. They as an example, we have Selden now. Their electric furlers, for example, are all CAN bus, except most of the dealers are riggers. They're not electricians, and
so they don't know.
They're by their own admittance not that great at troubleshooting these CAN bus things, because in the old days when you had a switch, you press a button and it made a contact and made electricity flow and made something turn. Most of us can understand that. Most of us don't understand how a CAN bus works, me included.
No, I mean, I think that's true, and I think if you think with Discovery, which I like to think we kind of own that market. We work with John Eustace, who built most of the boats, worked at Discovery for 12 or 14 years. And one of the things that happens is, client familiarity and a lot of work around, okay, you're going across the Atlantic, what are we going to do in terms of the service, the spares, the this, because you can't just give somebody the keys and say, there it is. You have to have that element of support. And we're also able to do that in the UK with the boatyard we have, and then with the service point in Spain. In Sweden, we work very closely with Oris Yacht Services. And so we have those contacts with boatyards and knowledge. And when we are new boat dealers, we know the boats intimately. And so you get that bit that you need when you've bought the boat, which
exactly.
very often isn't present. I mean, it's okay if you've got a captain, but if it's an owner-driver boat, you need a bit more.
Yeah, and all these inventions and developments are all designed to make the boat simpler to use and operate, but they still, behind the scenes, incredibly complex. I'll take IPS drives, for example, with the joystick. People love those when they work. And a 5-year-old can dock a 50-foot boat. Just if you do a video game, you can dock the boat. But God help you if it all goes wrong.
No, I think that's right. And the other thing I sometimes say to owners, or buyers, when they're sort of being quite beating the owner up a bit, I say, well, actually, who is it in 6 months' time when you're on the anchor, you need the bow thruster to come up and down, and you can't remember the switch? Who is it that you are going to call?
Yeah.
So just remember that one of your support people is also the owner. And so part of the sales process, I think, particularly with the more complicated, say 55 to 65 foot cruising boats and motorboats as well, the owner, when it's owner-driver, developing a relationship with him is quite a sensible thing to do.
That's right, exactly. And you do need. It needs to be a two-way street. The owners can't sort of just take the. It's a car, and I'm going to take it to the dealer thing, because that's just not the way the industry works. It's the owners, especially if you're offshore or something like that, the owners have got to be, by definition, self-reliant.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And then we're saying that in most cases in the market, yachts are selling on price. Additional equipment makes a yacht easier to sell, but not worth more. I mean, I don't think that's changed much. I think it's always been the case, but I think it's a point worth making.
Probably. And certain markets love stuff. I mean, Americans more so than Europeans. If an American orders a boat, it's got every option known to man. It's got the biggest engine option, and so forth. Brits or other Europeans, less so. They will more take it in closer to standard form.
Yeah, they're not bothered about air conditioning, which, for example, for the American client is absolute anathema. They just don't figure that at all.
So you need the air conditioning, then you need the generator,
and so. Yeah, and so I think that if you have two boats standing next to each other and one has air conditioning and all sorts of lovely Starlink and all the rest of it, and the other one doesn't, and they're in a similar condition, the one with all the kit isn't actually worth anymore, but it'll sell first. She'll sell first.
Right, and the British boat will have like the standard fridge, because all they have is two chunks of ice in the gin and tonic. Because the American one has millions of fridges because it needs a whole glass of ice.
Which shows what a very, very intelligent race they are, or you are, I should say.
Then the Americans need the biggest galley possible, and then eat every meal in a restaurant.
You see what I mean? They're just very, very intelligent people. Okay, badly presented yachts are sticking. There is choice in the marketplace, and buyers are currently project averse. I mean, I've seen this quite a lot where people they just don't want to do a deck. They just don't want to, they just don't want to have a boat which is a project which they don't know quite how much it's going to cost. They want something that they can go sailing, they can go motorboating, they can enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, to put a boat up for sale, you've got to declutter it big time. You've got to clean. We tell people just, clean it again. Even if you don't fix stuff, if some stuff is just going to be too much money or whatever, if it's clean, if it's decluttered, then you've got a far higher chance of it selling. If people come down and they see a completely cluttered boat full of owner's stuff, that first 30 seconds is gone.
Yeah.
They basically turn around and out the door.
Yeah, somebody will make a choice, will make the decision if they're interested within 45 seconds of getting on board, I think.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's clutter, it's smell, it's all those things. Okay, and the last thing is the winter is upon us. Charter flights are shut down. Badly located yachts that are difficult to visit quickly are unlikely to see potential buyers across the deck until charter flights recommence next spring. I mean, this is something that happens a lot in Europe, where the charter flights come off and suddenly a trip that was kind of from, I don't know, Gatwick, it was 2.5 hours. It's kind of like a 3-day camel ride.
We have, we found, well, as we sent that boat to you, we had the Moody listed in Grenada, and simply no one went to look at it. Which is why we shipped it back to you guys. But, I think they will go, the Americans at least, will go to BVIs, USVIs, maybe Antigua. But for the most part, they're not going to go down to Trinidad or Grenada or down there to buy a boat.
No. I mean, it's a bit like, Corfu in the wintertime, which is a great place, and you can cruise Peloponnese, and absolutely wonderful area. But when the charter flights come off, I think Magnus from the Swedish office did it last winter, and it was something like 17 hours each way. Yeah. Because you have to, you have to get a connecting flight, you then have to get another one, you then have to get on a camel, or, whatever it is, it just takes a long, long, long time. And so I think, it's condition, price, location. Always has
Absolutely.
been. Those are the three tenets. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's probably November unpacked. Thank you very much indeed, Alan, and we'll be putting this podcast up before the end of November. Thank you.
Fantastic, and hopefully there won't be too many noises of manholes falling in.
No, or my dog snoring.
Well, thank you, Sue, for organising this. It's been good fun.